Hey everybody, it's Dee Dee here with Take Three, and I'm here today with Phillip and Devon, co-writers of Range Runners, and Phillip, you're also the director. So let me ask you guys, how does a couple of successful location guys write such a great script?
Well, Devon was the main writer of the script. I was the director, but we conjured up the story after he had thought of it when he was on a hike on the Appalachian Trail with his wife. So I'll let him dive into kind of where the idea was hatched from originally.
Yeah, we take semi-annual trips to the Smoky Mountains, my wife and I, and we were hiking a section of the Appalachian Trail a couple years ago. It was 2018. And I was talking to her about the fact that I always have had this kind of secret desire to want to hike the entire trail. It's about 2,200 miles long. It takes several months. It's an unrealistic goal, but it was kind of this romantic idea I had. And she thought about it for a second and said, I just can't imagine myself doing that. So, of course, me being the guy that likes to put myself in other people's shoes, I immediately started imagining that for her. And that's kind of where the bones of the story came from. That was the basic premise I was going with. It was a woman solo hiking, or in this case, running a very long cross-country trail.
So this was kind of inspired then by your wife.
Yeah, I think she's embarrassed when I bring it up all the time, but yeah, it was based on a conversation we had. The character itself wasn't based on my wife, but that was where I started from, was the premise of like, oh, well, how would I think about this situation differently if I weren't, a dude who's comfortable being alone in the woods? And I went from there.
Yeah, because you sure wrote a strong woman character, that's for sure. So how did you guys go about casting this film, especially Celeste?
Well, I mean, that was actually a really great process. We went through PR Casting, Pascal Rudnicki Casting here in Chicago, and they are a wonderful firm here downtown. And we brought in a bunch of people to see, but Celeste was actually the easiest for us to cast. She came in and just really just breathed a whole life into the character with her sides, and knocked it out of the park when we were there in the audition space. And then we had kind of a physical callback where we wanted to put her together with our stunt coordinator and see if they could, do some things together, because we wanted a lot of the stunts to be done by the actors themselves, see if they could pull it off. So Celeste came, and she was the only one that we called back, and she went through, the motions there perfectly. And then basically I gave her the job right there on the spot, which she had never really experienced, was kind of taken aback by, but she's a great sport. She's a wonderful person, not just performer, but just a wonderful person with a huge heart, and really just dove into this character and brought it to life. And we're extremely grateful to have such a powerful lead for our first film.
And what about casting the other two?
The bad guys, Sean Patrick Leonard was, he was Wayland, and we kind of had him in mind. We had done a short film with him a couple of years earlier, and called Cellar Door, and we wanted, a big kind of menacing character for Wayland's character. So we thought Sean would be great. And he was just, he was perfect. So he came in and, again, knocked us out with some of the sides and things like that, and was just another wonderful guy to work with. It just absorbed the character, but also wanted to do a lot of the physicality himself. And then Michael Woods played Jared. And that was a character that, Devon and I were describing as kind of towing the line between the good and the bad. He's stuck between both. And I think that Michael was extremely happy to have the role, and dove into it again with complete vigor. The physicality of it, again, I'm going to point it out every time, but these guys came into the woods during the sweat and, the ticks and everything like that. We're being dragged around in the mud. And I mean, I think there's still pieces of Michael Woods' flannel shirts on the forest floor there in Shawnee National Forest. So just a great bunch of people to work with. We were really happy.
Yeah.
So staying with that theme, what was it like to direct 90% of a film in the woods?
Well, it was challenging. It certainly, we didn't have any cover sets. We had to rely completely on the weather that was at hand every day. And Devon and I are very much, we're a team. He's not the kind of writer that's going to sit back and, sit on the sidelines. He's there behind monitor. I'm kind of in the trenches next to the actors and camera. So we have a really good team-based directorial sort of writing effort that we have. And I found it to be the most challenging and wonderful experience of my entire career as far as working this business goes. It was a dream. We were working really hard to make happen. And we got down there in the woods and we relished the challenge, but we also, we wanted to have everyone kind of feel that they were good, on our crew, that they were comfortable, but at the same time, we pushed them. So I think it was a consistent thing for us to be leaders, but also acknowledge our crew and make sure that everyone kind of felt like they were creatively involved, even though we were at the helm of the story. So yeah, I think that everyone came together really nicely. And as far as directing goes, I mean, that's what I want to do. So, I think we got off to a good start with this one.
I would agree with you on that for sure. And Devon, what was it like when you were on set? Did you come across anything that you thought, oh, maybe this should change, maybe this things that should be different with the writing when you were out there?
Yeah, the script was the script was pretty solid from the get-go in terms of what we wanted and where we were going with it. There was always, we had to adapt a lot based on environment and weather and lighting. But I think that stuff we kept pretty fluid for the most part. I don't know if the crew would always agree because sometimes we were changing things at the last second. But I think for the most part, we were able to just, kind of turn on a dime and if we needed to. But luckily, Phil and I both kind of independently in the lead up to filming, to actually filming, we were doing scouting trips on our own. We were looking at different parts of the state. I was just going on hiking trips through a couple like state parks. Phil was the one that ended up going down to Shawnee National Forest and scouting down there. But what that allowed for is during the writing process was for us to write to the environment, even if it wasn't necessarily where we ended up shooting. I could stand at the top of a cliff and kind of picture, okay, this is how this scene's going to play out. We kept in mind the fact that we were going to have to get crew and equipment out there. So we were always being in locations helps a lot with that because we understand like it's not just an actor and a camera. There's also a sound card and there's people that have to set up chairs and makeup stations and changing tents and all that stuff. So, there were some places that were big hikes to get to, and our crew really had to pull their own weight, so to speak. But I think that by the time we got to filming, we were so involved with the environments we were going to be filming in that we knew what to expect and we were ready to adapt if we needed to.
Yeah, and I think having a locations background, both of us, you mentioned this at the top of the interview, but I think having a locations background really benefited us with a lot of the things Devon just pointed out, but also the fact that we were able to, again, get down there ahead of time and know what we were looking for and find spots that may work, may not, work with the local populace down there in Southern Illinois and Carbondale area. And John Musgrave, who was kind of our local location manager and historian down there, and really get involved with the community and bring them out to help us out in certain areas too. So it was really, I think, a benefit for us to have that background in locations to kind of know what we needed to get into and what the crew was going to need along with the cast and where we could do all the support stuff. As well, in a very, again, sort of rustic wilderness type setting that you're not normally accustomed to filming a feature-length film in.
Yeah, I already heard you talk about ticks. So what were some of the real big challenges on this set?
Well, ticks was definitely one of them. You had mandatory tick checks at the end of the day if you were smart. So, we did ticks, we did black widow spiders, we had, a snake wrangler come in with a snake. Luckily it wasn't venomous, but, we had all kinds of different challenges as far as, the physical environment goes. Just the hiking in and being under the canopy in the sweltering summer heat in the middle of June was extremely challenging. And, we had to keep hydrated. We had to keep, the sunblock on. We had to keep the bug spray, on hand. And I think a lot of the physical scenes were challenging for the actors. One of the probably the most challenging things for us was just being under a time constraint in those conditions. We were under a SAG contract, so we have 12 hours. But there's hiking in, there's hiking out, there's getting into gear, there's getting out the gear. So you have to, basically focus on the crux of each scene is what we decided to do at the end of the day. Even if we had to push something that was scheduled on that day to the next day or, readjust it in the script, we were able to do that. but it was definitely a time crunch each and every day, making sure that we focused on what we needed, what we got in this particular area, and the fact that our budget only limited us to, having stunts and stunt coordinator for only a certain amount of days. So we had to get all of our stunts and things like that out of the way first, which is a very sort of challenging thing. You kind of throw yourself into a schedule and say, all right, well, we're not going to ease into this. First day, we're doing our biggest stunt scene on the edge of the cliff. So, there's just a bunch of things we took care of right off the bat. And I think it all worked out well, but it was certainly times we're sort of, questioning at the end of the day, well, did we get everything we needed? Yeah, I think we did, but let's see what happens the next day. So,
Yeah.
And Devon?
Yeah, another thing is just the weather. I think, the weather is always a factor on any film set if you're shooting outdoors, but usually you have the kind of space to budget your time around it if you need to, or you can shoot an indoor scene if it's raining on a day where you need it to be sunny. And we had one indoor scene the entire shoot. It was the very last day of filming. We were really lucky with weather. I mean, it was very hot. There was a couple times where rain threatened but didn't fall. Except for one day we did get thunderstorms that came through, and it just happened to be a day that we needed to be on a cliff face, like outside the canopy of the trees. It was actually the very, very last shot of the movie. And it rained all day. And we just went out and said, you know what, we're just going to hope for the best, that before the sun sets, the rain's going to clear. And it did. It was very serendipitous. It actually gave us this really beautiful, like, Smoky Mountain fog rolling through the trees. It was one of the best shots of the movie, I think, was just because we had to face the rain and lucked out on it.
Very nice. And how many days did you guys shoot in the woods?
we shot for 16. So we shot 16 days down in the Shawnee National Forest in Carbondale area. And then we shot 2 at Park Ridge, Illinois for the track and field flashback sequences. So 18 days total.
It was very tight.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously I've seen the film. I loved the film. I think that showing that a woman is going to take back what's hers no matter what is absolutely phenomenal, especially for these days. So are we any awards? Are we shooting for anything like that?
Well, we did a whole year last year in 2019 of touring the film at various film festivals. And yeah, we were fortunate enough to pick up several accolades along the way at various festivals. Artemis was our world premiere, Artemis Women in Action. And we had Twister Alley. We had 10. We had Nashville. We had Sidewalk, Whistler. So we were able to kind of, target certain areas of the country and then go out and get, kind of a teaser audience, if you will, to kind of get the grassroots campaign and everybody sort of talking about it in these different areas. So yeah, we did get a couple of accolades. Never set out to really get any awards. Those are kind of icing on the cake. We just really wanted to tell a good story and hopefully, people can relate to it in some way and get something out of it.
Yeah.
And when and where can people see Range Runners?
Well, we're coming out on demand on September 8th. On demand and DVD. So Amazon's going to be the big one. So that would be a good place to go check it out. We've also got iTunes and Xbox and Fandango now, Google Play, some other ones out there. So that'll be our first kind of video on demand streaming or on demand pay-per-view. And then we'll do DVD as well. So that'll be coming out September 8th, Tuesday.
Great. And what's next for you guys?
Well, Devon and I are crafting some more stories. That's what our company's all about. Fed Funnel Films. We're trying to have creative content and original stories, that people can relate to, but also that we enjoy making. And yeah, so we have several in the works right now, and hopefully, things go well with Range Runners. Then we can go back and make another one a couple of years or maybe less than a year. We'll see. Well,
Thank you guys so much for talking to me today about such a powerful film. It's your first film for both of you?
First feature length.
First feature, yeah.
Well, you've done a great job, and now, I guess I can't wait to see what you guys come up with next.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're excited about it. Yeah, Devon's got some things. He's down in his writing room. He's got surrounded with cork boards and chalkboards, and we're going back and forth on the phone about some interesting stories. So we'll see what happens.
Well, in my opinion, here at Take Three, Range Runners is great, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Awesome. We really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and you can keep up with us on fatalfunnelfilms.com. That's our website. At Fatal Funnel Films is our Instagram, at Range Runners Film, and then we also have a Facebook page for Range Runners too. So we're out there.
Great. So everybody, September 8th, watch Range Runners, follow you guys, and it's just great.
Well, thank you for having us, Edie.
I don't know what else to say.
Oh, no, that's wonderful.
Good enough for us.
Yeah, we appreciate it.